Thank you. It is 6:30. Okay, well, let's go ahead and open the work session. And I think we have a new member here. Would you like to introduce yourself to me? I don't know.
Yes. I'm Angie Emmett, and I've been fortunate enough to serve on the CPT since it started. So I am absolutely thrilled and honored also to sit on this commission. And I would say being on the CPT has been a real great way to cut my teeth, so to speak, and has just provided, I think, an invaluable insight to the city and the citizens. So I'm just excited to be here, and thank you for having me.
Irvin. All right, I think at this time I'm going to turn this over to Bill, Vice Chair, tonight, because Bill has been working a great deal with this project and probably has a lot of insight to offer tonight.
Well, thank you very much. Yes, this is kind of an update to the Planning Commission from the Community Participation Team. I want to take an opportunity to sort of introduce you, first of all, to some of the members of the team. Here we have Rob Lyles. Rob is the chair of the group, and you have to excuse my back. I don't like to do that, but behind me, Shannon Dalrymple is the co-chair. We had two sub-teams. Angie was the chair of the group that was in charge of data collection. And I want to point out, if anybody should ever ask, that Angie's been on the CPT since the spring and been appointed to the Planning Commission in the fall. So she's here because of the great job she did on the CPT, not vice versa. Behind us also is Miss Janice Powell back there. Janice was in charge of the community engagement team. And so some of the things you see, such as the logos and some of these cards, other things like that, the advertisements were done, that was her team. So there was a really, really active group that did that. Now, excuse my back while I go behind us. Here's Lynn Giglio, she was a member of the team. Joseph Ligon, Lindsay Watson, Robert Cox, and Janice Powell. I think I've caught just about everybody that's here. Oh, I'm sorry. And Karen. Karen's back there, too. So when I turn my back, I can't see them all. So the point is, at this particular point in time, the team is going to tell you where they are here. I guess the really important thing to point out to you is the charge of the team. Lee will tell you a lot more about that, but the charge of the team was to collect inputs. They are not charged with evaluating, or they're not charged with ranking. They're not charged with making suggestions. They're basically charged with giving us community input. And that's what they're going to show you where they are so far today. So basically, Lee is going to update us, as she has in the past with the commission, on sort of what we've done in the history. And then I'm going to turn it over to Rob, who's going to tell you what we've been seeing so far. So, Lee?
Okay, great. I'm going to use this podium here, if you don't mind.
Bill, would you like me to go up there and just run the slideshow? Okay.
Yeah. Well, good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to give you a brief update of the actual process. As Bill mentioned, this team really came together very fast, and we were just delighted to have so many skills and abilities within the team. We were able to hit the ground. But basically, the purpose, as Bill said, the community participation team was really to impartially solicit, collect, and report citizen input for the comprehensive plan update. So from February through to June, basically it was really more organizational matters that were taking place. The 12 members who were appointed and approved by the Planning Commission and then ultimately by the City Council really were a wonderful representation from all city districts and also demographics. And I think the Planning Commission is to be applauded for really doing due diligence to really try and get that balance within the committee structure. The team held its first meeting in June. And during that time, the FOA, the Freedom of Information Act requirements were reviewed very carefully. And subsequent to the June meeting, every meeting that we held from the CPT was publicly advertised, open to the public, but not for comment. So we certainly thank the city staff for making sure that all happened. Developing leadership in that first meeting, there was lots of housekeeping matters and organizational matters that had to come together very quickly. With developing our leadership, we then had to devise our own roadmap. This was not given to us. And when I say us, really, Bill and I, at this point, are really just facilitators of this committee. I want to really do a shout-out to the committee members themselves for being self-policing and lots of the decisions that have come to pass from the June timeframe. So under the leadership of Robert, we were able to meet regularly, and we were able to also develop a data set. Keep in mind, this first phase is really just a community sensing phase that the committee members felt would be important. Rather than drilling down into specifics and details, we really wanted to get a snapshot of the community, shall we say, pulse or themes that were of concern to citizens. So with that, 4 general questions were developed. Along with the flyers and mailers and advertisement, as Bill mentioned, the cute little guy that you see up there in the top left-hand corner was developed by a Poquoson citizen by the name of Stacy Flynn, who donated her time and talent. And so that little signature was what we used as the branding for the community outreach. The cards that were developed, comment cards, were really the work of the data team. And in front of you, you have a sample of the comment cards that were actually used as part of the community outreach efforts to solicit citizens' comments. So the 4 questions basically was, what is the city doing right? Concerns regarding the future. If folks had any suggestions on what they would like to see in the future, and any additional comments. And so these, so the next slide, so these were actually part of the community outreach that we conducted through September, October, culminating in the Seafood Festival, where these comment cards, we had manned tables by representatives of the team, and solicited comments from Poquoson citizens. These cards were completed anonymously and collected in drop boxes, and then combined as part of the overall data set. Rolling into right on the heels of the Seafood Festival, we had our public meeting. Probably on hindsight, we probably would have stretched that out a little bit more to give the team a little bit of a break, but we were very thrilled to have 40 attendees, and this was a meeting that was held at the high school. And at this juncture, the tables, we had table captains from each of the CPT members, and the topics were around the chapter headings that we have in the current comprehensive plan. And this was really an opportunity for discussion, in-depth discussion. And the table captains, again, representatives from the community participation team, really did a great job in trying to tease out and question thoughts and input from the attendees who were able to be there. And if anyone's listening tonight, I hope some of the attendees were able to view the input tonight, and we just wanted to say thank you very much for your time and effort to attend that meeting. We had a professional facilitator by the name of Dr. Michael Chandler, who we were very fortunate to be able to bring to that meeting. He is the executive director of the Land Use Education Program that is sponsored by Virginia Tech. And this is a very well thought and great reputation from the state of Virginia in terms of land use and planning commission's training. So he attended and helped to facilitate. So The output from this public meeting was 155 cards. Now, these cards varied from the comment cards that I mentioned earlier. These were open-ended, so if any of the attendees had any ideas or they wanted to submit information on their own around these general themes, this was the time for them to do that. So the compilation of all of the data from the comment cards from the community as well as the public meeting were collated and recorded by two members of the participation team, and I would like to do a special shout out to Angie Emmett and to Robert Cox for an outstanding job. There was a lot of work in a short period of time to have those actually collated so that they could be used by the other members of the team to then develop some of the themes that were emerging. In addition, Dannon, who's our staff person on the committee, with the help of city staff, put an extra page on the city website, which is part of the Planning Commission's information, and that we were able to get 19 responses from that site, which asked the 4 questions similar to the comment cards that you have in front of you. That remains open, so if there's any members of the public who are out there who have missed the opportunity to either be part of the public meeting or the seafood festival or do the comment cards, we really do urge anyone who's out there to continue to feel free to submit comments on the website. The compilation of all of the data was really brought together to this juncture, and it's very exciting that we actually have the results, the preliminary results of some of the data that I know Robert and the team members are really anxious to go through. So at that point, I'll turn it over to Robert.
Okay, thank you. Again, Robert Files. I'm the chair for the... As stated, and as we just discussed, comments were collected from multiple collection points, drop boxes throughout the city, and then also collections from Poquoson Seafood Festival and the public meeting on 18 October, over about 340 resident inputs. Input was not just a single input, so there was several, close to. This collection represents a good sample level of consensus of both positive and concern. I heard the question many times, both in our discussion, others, what does the small town feel mean? And that's really a theme that's been expressed many times from the comments. And I think the comment cards themselves provide a good answer. Tonight we're going to kind of take a look at the top-ranked comments, have them categorized on 7 slides ranked by the comprehensive plan top areas that these comments kind of. I'll be presenting those each, and I will review each one with you and then allow you a moment to. So for the first slide, housing, I'm just going to go through this real quick. Top concerns, overdevelopment, need for affordable housing, mixed feedback on apartments, some for, some against, need to attract younger family and children, need for senior citizen housing. Our housing comments. Next, infrastructure. Top concerns, sidewalks along main roads, flooding, stormwater control, drainage improvements, bike paths, road maintenance and widening, crosswalks, and traffic reduction. You'll see some of these comments are in other areas also, so there's some crossover. Next slide, land use. Top concerns desired for sidewalks, trails, and bike paths, again, crossover. Preservation of Poquoson small town community feel, again, that saw quite a bit. Concern about flooding and sea level rise, limit on building growth, and encouraging small desirable local businesses. Right. Community services, top concerns were sidewalks, better pay for construction of a recreation community center, desire for more transparency from city elect officials, more comments for public input on decisions. Economic development, top concerns, preserving Poquoson small town atmosphere and feel, avoiding overdevelopment, high density housing, supporting local businesses over large retailers or chain stores, improve development aesthetics, maintaining quality of schools. Next slide, environmental management, top concerns, addressing sea level rise and mitigating storm flooding, tree planting and woodland preservation, water pollution, clean waterways, land pollution, trash cleanup, environmental impact of construction, wetland preservation, and mosquito control. Okay, next slide. Last slide of the 7 for the comprehensive plan. Top concerns, creation of city center or town square. Desire for more transparency from city board and commissions on major decisions, including land use, sidewalks, and pedestrian-friendly design standard, local community education options, and community, family, recreation, and cultural facilities. Again, these are just the top roll-ups under each category, several for each category, but we kind of ranked and kind of provided you, like again, top ranking of each. Next slide. So we've collected comments and some of the major themes to kind of look at what we discovered. Preservation of the small town feel of Poquoson. Again, that was consistent. Sidewalks and street improvements. Conservation, schools, community recreation. There were many positive comments. Actually, the positive comments, I think, outweighed concerns. So there was a lot of pride in the community, and that was expressed. General satisfaction with schools and city services. People feel safe, enjoy local community atmosphere. Pleasure with the fact that the Walmart grocery and preservation of the small town feel. So what we plan on doing next, we've collected a bunch of comments. We're looking at those that kind of give us a pulse of what the concerns are, the city are, and with that, we're going to use that to draft a survey to be able to create, explore the themes presented by the public, and all great metrics that will help decision making within the city. Draft a survey. We're going to present the survey. Once approved, we will recommend it. present that in a final report back to the city. Some of the things we need to discuss too.
I'll just make sure that your mic.
Okay. Yeah, so we want to look at whether we want to present it to the entire city or just a random sampling, and I think presenting it to the entire city would be a recommendation. Want to just do it for residents, or do we want to include businesses? Those are some of the things we need to explore too as we get into the survey development process. Any questions on any of the 7 slides or any of the correction?
One comment that I was going to suggest that you guys take it exactly like you have. In other words, the comments and formalization of the survey. Exactly what you guys are thinking. I think that's fantastic. And then the one question I have is, did the public get to look at the other people's comments? Was there any chance, in other words, could you see somebody else's comments? And sometimes that'll spawn a lot of ideas for people who are maybe stuck and not thinking. They're like, oh yeah, I like that too. Or did you not let the other people comment?
I think, well, the drop box is not so much so. I mean, it was pretty much everybody had whatever their thought was, they put it down. But with the public meeting, we had a chance to explore and discuss both individually and in groups, and we also chart that we posted comments on too, so that see what other people were talking about. So there was some level of that exploration too.
On water access or kayak trails or any of that stuff. I'm surprised. I wouldn't expect to see something like that.
Well, so I have to say, we received so many comments, and we did only take some of the highlights, some of the ones that floated to the top with as far as numbers go. But for each of our topics, although we have maybe the top 5 or 6 that have, say 60 or 70 comments, we had pages of comments that have maybe fewer that we just didn't have time or highlight at this time. But yeah, that was definitely water access was one of them.
Every Saturday morning when I leave town, there's boats upon boats upon boats on trailers coming in. And since they fixed up the boat ramp here on Wren's Road, it might be an opportunity for some economic development. I don't know. 8 stores or something. I don't know, but and then there's plenty of kayakers. It's just like there's a rich water heritage of lots, and we're doing a better job of allowing people to access it. It's a good trend to continue, I think.
Well, you're absolutely right, Jay, and I would point out that what you've seen, as I said, was kind of like the topics that got the most comments so far. But I will tell you that any report that comes from the CPT to the city will include all the comments. So we're not going to eliminate any, we're not going to cut any off. They'll all be there, and they'll all be there for the planning department and for, quite frankly, for us eventually to deal with. We're just trying to give you the things that hit the real high points at this particular point in time. And your other question about whether folks had seen the comments, that hasn't been done yet. We've had a couple conversations with Debbie and the staff, and there are some thoughts about before this survey goes out, about trying to post some summary of this on the city website. I'm not sure they've really worked down to what that's going to be. That's what we'd like to do before we went out with a survey.
I know on the web these days when you have these things like TripAdvisor and things like that, that seems to be the most popular part of a lot of those features is to read what others think or others do, and I think that would be valuable. I don't know how to do it yet. Good luck, but I mean, it would be nice.
I strongly want to encourage you to reach out to businesses. Many of the small businesses in this town are owned by people who do not live in the town. For instance, Poquoson Cleaners, resident of Hampton. We had an interesting conversation during the election because, of course, we had a very strong local election for which she could not participate in. However, it's an extremely big impact on her life. So please do reach out to all of them. They are local. they may or may not choose to participate twice. I think they should. Another idea that you might want to consider is many of our teachers are not residents of Poquoson, yet they play a key part in us in what the service they provide to us. So city staff members, I think we're pretty well represented with city staff members are mostly residents. But again, I think the service providers that are important to us who are not residents, their input, because a lot of them have been here, working here for 10, 20 years. They just they don't live here for whatever reason. Still, their input would be very helpful, I think, to I agree with that. That's going to be a lot of data, though.
It will be.
Hopefully, it's going to be a lot
But I
of
think
data.
it should, yeah. At least should go, yeah. Mass
Office has
mailing or
4
something.
employees, and only I live in because you go to area restaurants and so yeah, good idea.
I guess really what the second half, not the second half, because I think you've already provided some of this, but what we're really looking at is we wanted to give you, the commission, an update as to where we are today. This is kind of like a midterm report, but we're really looking for feedback. You've given us some feedback, and that's great. But if there's more feedback now, or if there's feedback later, we would really appreciate getting it because, we really want to make sure that where we go from here is something that everybody's in agreement with. So I guess what we're really saying is we're asking for any kind of input that anybody can come up with now or in the future. We'd really appreciate to have that. And there's any number of ways to get that through to us. Of course, 3 of the members of the team are on the commission, so you're going to see a lot of us. But we'll be happy to get that to the rest of the team any way that works for you. But we'd like to do this survey, I think, probably not too long after the first of the year. And to sort of try to wrap this up, but I know it'll be after the first year. Rob did mention it, but I did want to point out that on the last slide, he did say something about updating the city council. We're not going to ask to, but we certainly hope to have an opportunity to update the new city council members after the first of the year, because as you know now, 3 of the 7 city council members will be new. We really don't know how familiar they are with the comp plan, the process, and all that. And we really want to give them a chance to be involved, just as we've given you a chance to be involved. Maybe not to this depth, but we want to give them a chance to be involved as well before we move too much further. So that's kind of where we are at this particular point in time.
Traffic issues be covered on any one of those slides? Traffic issues? I didn't notice that there's lots of bike path things. I mean, other traffic. Where would you?
We did touch on traffic control. That was one of the top concerns.
Road widenings.
Was okay,
Road
I'm
widening,
sorry.
yeah.
Missed it. Sorry.
Something that didn't quite make the top 5 list was a concern for public transit, some kind of bus route capability too. So the other concern that was brought up, 5 or 6 people had that concern.
Dilemma, because to get public transportation, you need to have ridership is generally a complement to public transportation there.
I think we were all amazed also with the prevalence of sidewalks, and we know this was an issue that came up with the last comprehensive plan. It hasn't gone away, folks. And as you notice on each of the themes, when the table captains went back to try and get a handle on where the major suggestions were coming from, that was a theme that went right through almost every 7 topic areas. So that's going to be interesting going forward, I think.
That's an ancient time.
I was going to say, is there anyone sitting at
It's
this
been
table
further
who's
back
also?
I
than
know, it's an ancient, yeah. So
It's ancient and it also entails a lot of
Yeah.
interesting
Yeah, and we-
elements.
that, and it's sort of interesting
Yeah.
when you open that up.
Oh, yeah, very.
The comments on sidewalks and bike paths kind of led, and there was discussion, led a theme on be active. I think that was a theme too.
Yeah, it's interesting because I hear the various times that sidewalks have been they've been turned down. Education on everybody's part might get everybody excited and on the same side. Each other against. I mean, you know, things like, I mean, I live on a corner that should have sidewalks. My house should be, my yard. I don't mind if I lose some of my yard to sidewalks. I see more people walking by, you know, or trash or something. I don't know. I've heard lots of things like, oh, people don't want sidewalks because of this and that. I think educate each other, have a team, or I don't know. You know, it's just everybody looks at it. Well, some people don't. I think we all, I don't know, got out summer nights or something like that and talked to each other. I don't know. Good luck, but
People would love to have them, but it's, you know, and it's the amount of money that it would take to purchase the property to do it. You won't find property.
I disagree with that. I think,
I
and we
don't.
saw that. Unfortunately, it takes all of them, and it only takes one to stop it. And we saw that. I mean, we had a committee. I was on the committee. That's what led to this commission. It's a very sore subject with me. You should have a sidewalk in front of your house. You even had money for it.
Well,
well, again,
I disagree a little bit on that too, because
I guess it's indicative of the problem, though, if those commission members don't agree on it.
Well, and it is
No,
in the
no, we-
comprehensive plan. It's in the current comprehensive plan.
Yeah.
Well, I think on that note, we could talk for hours on it. And it's a great idea, but it does become somewhat complicated. Input, it seems like it's a good update and y'all are progressing along. Do you have a projected date that you?
Well,
Gathering and
I think that that's really going to base on whether or not the new city council would like to hear from us and when that might be able to put together. So we'd rather not tie anybody's hands on that, but we would like to get this finished by, well, I say finished, get the survey out by late winter, early spring, if that is mechanically feasible. That would be our window,
sounds good.
if it fits with everybody else's windows.
that sounds good.
One of the challenges is going to be developing a survey that people can sit down and work. We don't want to ask 200 questions. Limit it to the questions to the point where we're not getting. That's our initial challenge, is where is that equal meeting survey that people will feel good about filling out.
We also want to make sure that we have questions that are objective and aren't leading. So we need to really put some thought into crafting the questions to make sure that they're not introducing any of our own biases.
We're also hoping to seek the guidance of Dr. Chandler. He has offered to assist us with.
We do have a meeting on the 13th next week. Was it our
We are meeting next Tuesday.
next Tuesday? It's a survey strategy discussion, and so.
The city's comprehensive plan and creating the new, is that all the same objectives? In other words, does the city council hear from us? We still have to update the comprehensive plan. That's what all of this has to be done, right? So in other words, how you steer your effort to me is a function of the end goal. In other words, so if you just have to update the comprehensive plan, the city council doesn't hear from you. Is that different than if they do? I mean, the other thing is you spend a lot of time on this.
Well, yes, it
Nobody
is.
listens to you.
Well, and I think we recognize that as a real possibility right from the beginning. If you remember, I know it's been quite a while ago now, but the tasking that we received was not to revise, but to essentially update the comprehensive plan. And that's the approach that we're taking at this point in time. That's why, as Rob said, they kind of follow the 7 categories of the plan and that sort of thing. We're simply looking at an update. I don't expect that we'll get different direction from the new council members, but I only know one of them, and not all that well, so we'll have to wait and see. We'll just have to wait and see.
Mm-hmm.
But by the same token, since they're going to have to approve what we recommend, we might as well get them in on the ground floor rather than go through a whole lot more work and then have them say this is not what we.
That was my objective. I was afraid that, I was kind of saying, don't do too much. If in fact you're going to be steered in a different direction.
I think that's going to be at their convenience. I mean, we will be ready to meet with them when it's good for them. I have no idea how many other things, that the city manager and the mayor has for the new council members to deal with. I don't want to impede on that, but we'd like to do it fairly early.
That's what I'm thinking.
But we had talked about the February possibility when we talked informally.
Committee approaching them and explaining the process. But on the same token, I think it's very important for the new planning to understand the process that we're going through, as they too will have conversations with their constituents. That's for them to understand where we're at and where we're going, so that.
That was why I was explaining not so well why I was asking that kind of.
It's a great question, because we're all kind of at a loss of. The creation of the agendas is basically, so it will ultimately be up to them as to. We will certainly express our desire to move forward as quickly as possible, because we certainly don't want to go too far with the survey preparation or delivery until they understand and they're on board with it as well. It's just experience.
Okay. Well, I mean, these are smart things to be thinking about. Yeah. Okay.
I can't say that there's a whole lot of surprises in the results. Questions you're asking, the means you're doing, you're
I agree with you, Richard. I think it's more reaffirmation of things that we expected as opposed to surprises, but it's still good to get reaffirmation.
Things are moving along under control. Very good.
As I said I should have said earlier, but as I said to council too, we're very fortunate. We, Lee and I, have a very, very good team of folks here. Hope that if you have a chance, you'll stop and tell them how much you appreciate the work. Because I'll tell you what, some of these folks have put in one heck of a lot of time on this process already. And what they don't really realize is the job ain't done yet.
And can I just say one more thing too for folks here or folks at home? We do have a Facebook page for the CPT. It's Poquoson if you search for it. And if you just want to stay updated with meetings or updates, if you want to like it or follow it, then we'll show up in your news feed.
Nothing else? Debbie?
I would just like to wish everyone a Merry Christmas. We will holidays, so I wish all the Planning Commission, and we will see the CPT next week, so I'll have. But you guys have a wonderful Christmas.
You too.
And the plan is there.
Thank you.
We'll see you. Okay. All right, well, thank you. All right, so Bill,
What's Kevin doing?
Bonus, as long as, like I said, I think we all recognize we need let the three.
Because of the timing of the planning,
Or otherwise, we could be going off.
and when he was trying to get his final